Hey, what's up guys? Caleb here with another gear review on DSLRvideoshooter.com. This is a slider from Kamerar, that's with a K. You can find the show notes at DSLRvideoshooter.com with links to this slider. It's got some great features and it also has a few things I didn't really like. But given the price, I think it really balances out very well. So we're gonna get into all that on today's episode. So really, to start right out, let's talk about price. This thing can be had for $150 depending on where you purchase it. But this is a very long, as you can see, slider. I will put the measurements on the lower end of the screen, but I found it's almost too long for certain scenarios. But it's really nice to have a really long slider. You can get a lot of smaller sliders and obviously you usually pay more for longer sliders. But this one's great because it has a huge range, so it really gives you a lot of flexibility. It does come with a set of feet with a little rubber bubble at the bottom of it, so they are adjustable. It's a little finicky because you have to adjust these little nuts along with the feet, but it definitely lets you level things, which is great. And I used this recently on a short video shoot. My sister is starting a cooking website doing recipes and tutorials and things like that. So this was fantastic because I could just drop it on the counter, level it really quick, and then do various moves across the space that I was using actually in my apartment. And I'm going to be doing a video on how I lit that before long, so stay tuned for that. But back to the slider, it worked really well for that because the length of it was great, so I could actually have it, one of it on a higher level and then the other down on a lower counter, or I could go across the sink with it. It was just really flexible and very nice to have this really long slider. A couple other things, you'll notice that there are a lot of 1/4-20s all the way up and down the slider. You can actually get a kit that comes with little skater wheels if you wanted to turn this into one of those skater dollies. So that's really cool. But yeah, there's 2 1/4-20s on each side, as well as right in the middle, right next to a 3/8. So lots of mounting points, which is fantastic. The feet are removable if you wanted to take those off. And when it comes to the actual unit where you mount your tripod head, it's very well made, very sturdy, and it does have the lock, so it's not gonna slide around, which is really important. And the actual sliding smoothness, it is very smooth. It doesn't use ball bearings, and that's one of the reasons it's fairly affordable. But I found that as long as you kept the weight down as much as possible, and you kept the weight distribution even, it worked really well. I had a harder time doing really fast slides when I had the camera on there. This is a fairly heavy setup. I already have this metal tripod head with a tripod quick release adapter. Then I had the plate, my 7D, which is a pretty heavy camera, and then the Sigma 18-35 f1.8, which is a kind of a heavy lens because there's a lot of glass there. So this was a fairly heavy setup to begin with. So what I ended up doing, what I would recommend is try to make sure you have a tripod that you can use to slide the plate back and forward. So as an example, this particular one, you'll notice, let me straighten it out, look at my monitor here, that I have it pretty centered. And the reason I'm able to do that is because this plate, it's a Manfrotto quick release plate, it can slide forward and back. So that allows me to kind of get the weight right in the middle. So that works really well right there. But if you have a setup with a really long, like if you're trying to do a 70-200 on this and you weren't able to counterbalance that very well, it's not gonna work terribly well. I wouldn't really recommend using a 70-200. If that's something you have to use, then you might want to look at a different slider that can handle more weight. So if you keep the weight down, that's the key. Is you keep the weight down, it works really well. On the actual plate itself, it does have a bubble, so that's going to allow you to level it, which is fantastic. Other things I liked about it was it had a decent weight to size ratio. It's not a terribly heavy slider. It's very stripped down, as you can see. That obviously makes it not handle as much weight, but it is nice because you're carrying around this giant slider. It's nice to not be dealing with a ton of weight. The other thing you're gonna have to deal with is getting this thing not to flex because it is so long that as you move your camera around, there is just a little bit of flex in the actual rail. And really the only way to deal with that is either keep the camera kind of in this range with a really nice heavy tripod in the center, or do something like I have here where you have something on each end of the slider, and that'll help you a lot. All in all, I think this is a fantastic slider. The price is amazing. It's really hard to find anywhere close to decent slider in this price range. The quality is very good. It's got a lot of flexibility given the length of the slider and with the legs. So I highly recommend this. Definitely check it out. Go to DSLRvideoshooter.com, and below this post and video, you'll find links to this slider as well as some other gear. I am going to be reviewing a matte box from Kamerar as well as a shoulder rig from Photography and Cinema, so stay tuned for that as well.